Konnichiwa Pokemon fans, and today I'm going to hop right into the topic. Nintendo just revealed the new fairy type. Honestly, I didn't expect there to be a new Pokemon type, but I was proven wrong. And you know what? I'm happy I'm proven wrong. It shows that Game Freak can still surprise us in new and interesting ways. Fairy type is super effective against Dragon type. That means Dragon types are getting nerfed. I don't know how this will change gameplay, but it's interesting to play around with. So, Fairy type, what do we know about them? Well, we know that the new Sylveon is a Fairy type. We also know that older Pokemon will be changing their types to Fairy, or will be adding on Fairy type as a second type. So, Gardevoir, one of my favorite Psychic Pokemon, will be getting a Fairy type, so it'd be Psychic Fairy. Marill will be getting a Fairy type, so now it's Water Fairy. Jigglypuff will be a normal Fairy. And you know what? At first I said, whoa, let's step back and think, why are these types getting a Fairy type? Now, I didn't know this. Probably some of you more Pokemon experts out there know this, but Marill was part of the Fairy Egg group, and so was Jigglypuff. And seeing as how they only had one Pokemon type associated with their evolutions, why not add on that second Fairy type, since they're part of the Fairy Egg group? So what I decided to do was compile a list of Pokemon that could potentially get a second Fairy type because they're part of the Fairy Egg group. So now I will go down the list. Clefairy. This better be part of the new Fairy type. I'm calling bull if Nintendo does not make this part of the Fairy type. So Clefairy and its evolutions. Chansey is part of the Fairy Egg group. Maybe that would get a second Fairy typing to it, which would be very interesting since it's used mostly as a support type Pokemon in Wi-Fi battles. Just adding on a Fairy type move onto this thing, ooh, it'd be a monstrosity against Dragon types. Plusle and Minim, they're pure electric types, but they are part of the Fairy Egg group. I always thought Plusle and Minim were cheap knockoff Pikachu gimmicky Pokemon that do absolutely nothing, that add absolutely nothing to the game. If these guys get a second typing, which would be Fairy, and they get an evolution, that would be awesome. Game Freak would finally be upgrading one of its most useless Pokemon, and that would be great. Pikachu and Raichu are part of the Field Egg group as well as part of the Fairy Egg group. I am not seeing them changing this typing for that evolution line. It's been established for a long time. I doubt they would be changing Pikachu to part Fairy. They might change Raichu to part Fairy though. I know that Raichu has been featured in the anime series before, but it's not as prominent as Pikachu. Pikachu is the centerpiece of the Pokemon franchise. So if its evolution maybe was part Fairy, I wouldn't feel too bad about that. Or maybe Pikachu could have a second family branch that evolves into a part Fairy type. Togetic, that's normal flying. I doubt they would change it to a Fairy type this late in the game, so that'll probably stay as it is. Hoppip and its evolutions are grass flying, so I doubt they would get a Fairy typing. Shroomish is grass, but Breloom is grass fighting. They could make Shroomish grass Fairy, and Breloom could still be grass fighting. And as with like I said with Pikachu, Shroomish could get a second family branch that's grass Fairy, which would be an interesting typing. Skitty and Delcatty. They're just weak Pokemon. I've never really used them. If they get a second Fairy type, right now they're pure normal. So if they get that Fairy type, that would be interesting, but I would rather see Delcatty have an evolution too, so it'd be more viable in after-game battles. Mawile. I always like the design of this thing. It was always cool and mysterious to me. That's pure steel. It's part of the field group, and it's part of the fairy egg group. If Mawile became a steel fairy type, and then gained an evolution on top of that, that would be cool. Roselia. Roselia is grass poison. So is Roserade. Not unless Roselia got a second family branch. That is grass fairy. Other than that, it'll probably stay as it is. Cast form. That's a pure normal type. A little bit of a gimmicky Pokemon. If it gained an evolution on top of a new type, I think I would probably use it more. Now Snorunt. That is part of the Mineral group and the Fairy group. And so is Glalie. They're both ice Pokemon. If Snorunt was changed to Ice Fairy, then Glalie could be Ice Fairy. Pachirisu. Another electric Pikachu ripoff. It's just an electric rodent that is there to be cute. Give this thing a fairy typing, evolve it, and I will use this thing. That's all I can say. I'm super excited about fairy type. Everything should be fairy type. No, I'm just kidding. Next on the list, Cherubi and its evolution. They're both grass type. Adding on a second fairy type could be advantageous, but again, it is a weaker Pokemon, so if it got a third evolution, that would be great. Cottonee, in its evolution, it could add on that second fairy type for both of its evolutions, or it could have a branching family type that is grass fairy. So that's all the Pokemon in the fairy egg group. So Marill and Jigglypuff deserve to be fairies because they're part of the fairy egg group. Makes sense. Then what about Gardevoir? What characteristic about this particular Pokemon makes it part fairy? Well, looking up on Bulbapedia, I see that Gardevoir can sense the feelings of people and other Pokemon. It can also see the future clearly. Gardevoir has the psychokinetic power to distort the dimensions and create a small black hole in order to protect its trainer. Apparently, Gardevoir does not feel the pull of gravity because it supports itself with psychic power. It also has the power to teleport. In addition to psychic moves, it can also learn a variety of types, such as Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, etc. Well, the only thing I can see is that it senses the feelings of people and other Pokemon. So maybe a fairy-type Pokemon has the sort of capabilities. So I guess fairy has to deal with not only the egg group, but it can also be part of the Pokemon's characteristics. And it seems like fairy would be something close to psychic Pokemon, where it can sense the feelings of people and other Pokemon. So it'd be interesting to see what other Pokemon tack on a fairy typing that is not part of the fairy egg group. I guess another indicator for fairy typing would be their appearance, because a lot of Pokemon seem to take on a certain appearance. Water Pokemon would usually have some sort of blue coloring, electric would have yellow coloring, etc, etc. So even though this isn't absolutely guaranteed a match for fairy, we can just guess that the cutesy pink type Pokemon would be a contender for fairy type. So what do you guys think? Leave your comments and questions below in the comment section.